What's up, college football fans and Mean Green fans? Sonoy Valente here once again with the Mean Green Show. Today, joined by the real JD, and we're going to get into a little bit of transfer portal action as well as National Signing Day and all things UNT football. But before we do that, guys, you already know the drill. If you're a fan of college football recruiting, the G5 football world, coaching carousel, any or all of the above, consider hitting that like and subscribe button because that is truly all that we talk about. JD, thank you for jumping on with me. I know it's cold and you've got your cows probably out there freezing to death. But how's everything going on your end?
Good. We got to knock out another National Signing Day, and now we was golfing last week. This week we're playing in the snow, and we'll see what next week brings.
Yeah, absolutely. And guys, I'm gonna attempt to do this. And if you check the descriptions and these things aren't there, then I just couldn't figure it out. I'm not the most tech savvy person in the world. I'll be the first to admit that. But JD and Harry, they do a great job with their podcast at Go Mean Green. And I'm going to try to link the description because they also did, they covered and got a lot of good content on all the signees that we have thus far. So I'm going to try to link that. And I'm also going to try to link a video that JD and I did previously on all the signees that we covered on early signing day. So today, whenever we talk about the signees, it's just going to be the ones that we signed on national, maybe some of the transfers. But anyway, so that was a mouthful. And I probably won't even get those in the description anyway. So, kind of bad news then good news. So the bad news is, since we haven't jumped on and talked about it, but we've been getting hit by the portal pretty hard. With Brammer, hopping in, our starting right tackle, and one of the heaviest blows is losing the twins, and just kind of want to talk on that real briefly. And kind of move forward to hopefully some light at the end of the tunnel. But obviously Brammer's a huge loss, going to be hard to replace. JD and you and I were talking that if we still had him, it's the offensive line would pretty much be surefire to be another top of the line or top of the near the top of the conference offensive line unit. I think that we believe, but. And not saying it won't now. Hopefully we can get in there and get the next Jacob Brammer in the portal, or if he's already on the roster, develop him and just get the right guy out there and everything. And then as far as the twins go, I think that was one of the biggest gut punches for us as UNT fans. I spoke with someone really close to the situation, and I think it's just. With Brammer being gone and maybe some other question marks at the tackle position, just, maybe some uncertainties of how well they would be developed this spring and tested, and, just kind of wanted to see what else is out there to develop their game. And, ultimately all their ultimate goals, I guess, to go to the next level and give them a better shot of doing that maybe. And, I think from what I've heard, the relationship with Coach Luttrell is still good to this day, and they, it wasn't like a fallout with Coach Luttrell or anything like that, and they hopped in the portal late. So I also know that they're not big social media guys. They're not posting all their offers. I know a lot of people in conference are trying to vet for their services, and hopefully that doesn't happen. And also getting a little wordy here, but ever since starting this YouTube channel thing, I've had the opportunity to talk with a lot of coaches, not even with UNT, but just in the conference. And, this just kind of speaks to the caliber players that they are. They would tell me that they were mother explicits to game plan for. And yeah, that's going to be something we'll talk about on the back half of how we try to replace that going forward. But man, any thoughts on those transfer losses that we're losing, JD?
Yeah, anytime you lose all conference players, it sucks. I think Brammer and the Twins are two completely different situations. Brammer came to North Texas, fulfilled his commitment, graduated. If not for COVID, he would be gone anyways. So him wanting to, explore, 1 year and see what he can do, potentially get, another degree from another university, more power to him. It sucks as a fan, but, at the same time, I'll cheer for him wherever he ends up. Hope it's not Houston or a Texas school. I'd like for him to go, potentially to SEC or somewhere off. Power 5 school would make me feel a little better. But yeah, it does suck anytime you've got a chance to potentially bring back your whole offensive line. And I would say, last year we could argue that the offensive line was one of the biggest bright spots on the team. I mean, they paved the way for, an incredible rushing season. Now the Twins, you hate to lose those, one all conference talent, much less two in a package deal. I know they had some penalty problems and maybe some off the field stuff, but as far as statistics and wrecking havoc on offenses, I mean, I don't think you'll be able to replace that. I mean, I think you can look at the offer list they got. Like I said, I know we know that almost all the Conference USA schools have already offered them. They're posting the big offers. Penn State, USC. Anytime you've got that kind of caliber defensive ends, two of them on your team, you hate to see that go. You hate to see them go, and that's I think those hurt the most, just because, like I said, they had eligibility left. They haven't been able to graduate yet. Um, Potentially you could have still had them 2-3 more years. So seeing those go and knowing that it's going to be almost impossible to replace that kind of stats, those definitely hurt the worst. For sure.
Yeah. And we could definitely do a whole video on the Twins. I mean, they're just that type of player and stuff. But and I don't want to. We'll just leave it at this. But one thing that hurts me the most is I feel like with the Twins, man, their best football is still ahead of them. And this past year is where they really kind of stepped into that role and were wreaking havoc. And just, man, I feel like next year would have been another building block going forward. And I mean, they changed the complexions, of games. But anyway, it is. Oh,
They could
sorry.
end up no. They I mean at this level, the way they were progressing each year, I mean they both could have been 15 to 20 sacks a year players, and you could have two of them. So it sucks on a number of levels. I still hold out a little hope that they could end up coming back. I doubt it, but if they do end up at a USC, um, Penn State, one of those top schools,
Yeah.
wish them the best of luck.
Yeah. Yeah. If they do come back, we all got to get together and roll out the NIL red carpet for them for sure.
For sure.
One way or the other, we got to line their pockets if that's what it takes. I'm mostly joking there, but anyway. Um, so yeah, kind of moving, forward to National Signing Day, and like you and Harry were talking about, it's just, obviously it used to be just National Signing Day, then it was early signing day, National Signing Day, and whatnot, but now it's just. Man, recruiting is just an all year thing. And I mean, it's fun for people like us that we get, more opportunities to talk about it and stuff like that. But so as far as National Signing Day goes, I think we signed 5, and then there's a few transfers that have come in since our early signing day, conversation. So we'll kind of jump in there, just kind of going down the list. Starting off with Patrick Smith out of Clements. Yeah, Clements High School, right? Is where he went to.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you just kind of go check out his social media, I mean, it sounds kind of crazy, but I mean, he looks the part, man. He's pretty sliced up, and obviously that doesn't always matter, when it comes to, between the hashes and stuff, but he looks like an athlete. And he played a lot of receiver his senior year. I think he's coming in as a pure cornerback, though. Is that correct?
Yeah, he was an all-conference wide receiver, and I think he was the offensive MVP for his district, to be honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, they recruited him as a defensive back.
Yeah. Yeah, and his offer list, I mean, it's not the longest, but I mean, Army, Air Force, I think Richmond, was up there with him, and all Brainiac schools. So, Colgate was in there. I think Colgate might be Ivy League, if maybe, I'm not sure.
He had a San Diego State early on, so I mean that they're always a team that definitely knows defense. So anytime we get a
Yeah.
kid that's got a San Diego State offer, always impresses me.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fact that he's so versatile, like, I mean, that has a lot of experience at wide receiver, and if he comes in and plays cornerback for us, I would only imagine that'll help his defensive back game. So that's exciting. And going down the list down to Howard Sampson, offensive tackle, 6'8", 330. What are your thoughts on Howard?
Howard to me kind of reminds me a little bit of Jordan Murray, the name North Texas fans will know from a couple years ago. I think he's going to be a little more of a project than some other offensive line recruits in the class. But I think at that size, there's definitely a ton of potential there. He had a Texas State offer. I think we came in kind of late and were able to get him to go our way. But it'll be interesting to see how he develops. I mean, like I said, with that size, we saw Murray be able to come in here and play pretty quickly. So I'm anxious to see, how quickly we can get him in the rotation.
Yeah, definitely a lot of the potential ceiling I would say is pretty high for him. So that'll be very interesting how he develops at the collegiate level and potentially takes his game to a really, really high level. So we'll see. Next one is Bryce Linder coming out of Blinn, and so this is a safety, and I got him just momentarily confused with his teammate who we'll talk about in a second. But anyway, so Bryce is a safety, and again, a junior college kid, and I feel like these junior college kids, I mean, they're up against a lot more than they used to be with the transfer portal. So anytime that one makes it through and signs a D1 scholarship, I mean, I think it's something that's notable. But what are your thoughts on Bryce and what he brings to the table?
Yeah, I mean, I know he had some injury trouble coming out of high school. Watched his film at Blinn, and you can definitely see, there's flashes of, he could come in and play safety pretty quickly. I know it's a position of need. Just reading up on him and seeing some articles about him, Phil Bennett was the main one recruiting him. And like I said on our podcast, anytime Phil Bennett puts a stamp of approval on any defensive kid, that's good in my book. So excited to see him, come in. And like I said, I think him and there's a couple more in the class that I think, I wouldn't be surprised if he's not on the 2 deep week one.
Right. And maybe I'm missing the mark here, and please correct me if you think I am, but kind of looking at, Coach Bennett, Phil Bennett's recruiting history, even at Baylor and stuff, it just it almost seems that maybe he doesn't always go after the highest rated guy, the most superior athlete on the field, but someone that almost like a QB on defense really kind of has a good football IQ. And I kind of get that sense with Bryce. I mean, do you feel like maybe that might be some of Coach Bennett's recruiting philosophy? Like I'm not really overly concerned with the ratings, the star power, all that, but I'm more so, can you make smart decisions, in between the the hashes, and we can go with that in his defensive scheme more so than maybe a superior athlete that you may have more mental errors. I mean, do you think there's any angle like that with Coach Bennett's recruiting philosophy?
Absolutely. I mean, I think you can look at through every one of our defensive recruits we signed this year, and you could put a check mark. Most all of them, high IQ guys. I mean, that's something you say about every one of them. So I definitely think that, I've never talked to Phil, so I'm not going to sit here and say I know his recruiting strategy, but it kind of seems like to me that, he definitely, if a higher IQ guy that fits the system, as opposed to, going and getting this super stud athlete who could fly off the hinges at any second, he's probably going to go towards the high IQ athlete. I mean, I think even when they were to his days at Baylor, I mean, their defenses were solid and stout, and they weren't going out there and, their national signing day wasn't a full list of 5 stars. I mean, they were going out there and, like the Patrick Smith, finding a wide receiver who was a talented wide receiver, maybe not big enough to play wide receiver, blah, 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 move him to cornerback, and, excited to see, a guy like that develop. But I think that they've had success, finding under the radar guys and turn them into studs once they put them in the system.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, going down to another offensive tackle. Seems like they're really loading up there, which probably not a bad idea. And with Samora Ezekiel coming out of Pascal, Fort Worth, and any thoughts on Samora and just just what's your read on him?
Talking to the staff, watching film, this I think could be the sleeper pick of the recruiting class. I think of course they speak highly of all the recruits, but this is the one guy that they said, this is a stud. This is a guy that if it was in years past where there wasn't teams signing 10, 15 transfers, this is a Power 5 type, player. He only played 2 years of football, so I mean, he is super early. The ceiling's, super high on this kid. Um, so very interested to see how he comes in, how he develops, if he keeps, to see the top athlete he is 2 years, you know, what's that going to look like 2 more years from now? Potentially, he's got the chance to definitely be an all conference player.
Yeah, absolutely. Last one on the signing side is Kagan Roach, another one out of Blinn, and you and Harry were talking about it. So I think he was an edge rusher at Blinn, and is there talks about moving him to more inside to that DT or I mean, I'm not sure if that's the plan or not, but he's got good film, and I think again kind of coming out of that junior college ranks, really kind of grinded it out there and had to compete with transfer guys and high school guys. So I think it's again always notable whenever these junior college kids make it through these days, just because they're up against a lot more than they used to be. But what are your thoughts on Kagan? And he might be one of the most ones I'm excited about the five we spoke about. Just his film looks pretty good.
Yeah, we were talking about before we started recording. There's this look at this class. There's 5, 6, 7 guys that you would see the 2 deep week one, and then this is one of them. Gush, over his history, they've showed that they can find talent in the JUCO ranks. So I think this is a kid that I think would have potentially had more offers if it was any other year. But having the UTEP offer, means something to me because UTEP has dominated JUCO recruiting the last couple seasons. So, and also being able to bring a kid from Salina back, that's a local kid. I'm excited. But yeah, what I'm hearing is he's going to move more to the inside, maybe put on some extra pounds, um, and kind of be a disruptor inside. But 3 years of eligibility left is definitely time to see him develop into something.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of go into a few of the transfers that have come in since early signing day, and the first one is again the pronunciation Zahadry Za Jackson, coming out of Utah State and played high school in Florida, I believe. Yeah, Riverview High School in Florida. So this is the one that you guys were talking about. He has 1 year of eligibility left, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay. So and yeah, if we check our track record with transfers, we usually, well, we used to not really use the transfer portal too much, but but now that we're kind of upticking in that, it seems that we go after guys with multiple years of eligibility, which I kind of think is not a bad approach. I mean, get them while they get a few years out of them if you can, as better than one. But the fact that they know that he's a 1 year guy, I mean, it kind of pauses for consideration of, I wonder, I mean, do they see this guy coming in quickly? And, there's not really any room for development here with only 1 year being left on the table. And also, I think it's kind of interesting because he's a Florida kid that went to Utah State. There's no real home base here in Texas that I know of anyway. I mean, he might have family here, I'm not sure. But it's not like he's a Texas high school kid that's coming back, to play his last year closer to home, from our understanding anyway. So it's real intriguing and, kind of exciting, just the fact that he's just kind of different, in his little recruiting path. But what are your thoughts on that and Zahadry Jackson?
Yeah, I mean, talking to the staff, I think Coach Petrelli was the connection there. I think he had coached with one of the defensive coaches at Utah State, I believe was the connection. Getting him in, he's a guy that, I think it was 30 35 games he played at Utah State. When you can get a guy to come in on campus with that kind of, you know, track record, I definitely think he's a guy that will be on the, like I said, the two deep. You know, can offer some competition, potentially start. I mean, he's had a pretty good career at Utah State. We played him a couple years ago in the bowl game. He started that game against us, so um, definitely some talent there. Like I said, he's a Grizzly veteran that could, you know, definitely bring some leadership to that defensive back room. Because when you look at it, there's definitely some skills in that defensive back room. It's just a very young group, so being able to bring in a veteran like this in, I could see where that could definitely um, be an advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Gotta try anything and everything, right?
Yeah.
But all right, moving down to Nick Nakwasa, and man, that took me a couple times to get that name right. That's a tough one. But I had the opportunity to interview Nick, and if you haven't already checked that out, you know, he's a great kid and he's got a really interesting story coming out of University of Central Arkansas, an FCS transfer. And man, I'm starting to kind of like this FCS stuff. Like, you know, if you play at the FCS, they're not going to typically go scholarship a kid out of the FCS that hasn't played. So most of the time, if you're, offering scholarships to FCS kids, they were big time players at, and FCS is a high level. I mean, that's real high, and he probably the highest. I mean, I think it's higher than junior college or really anything else that you can. So I think there's a good measuring stick is what I'm getting at. If they can perform well there and exceptionally well, then I think it translates really well over to the G5 world. We saw that. I think we're always going to use Bailey Zappi for the next 10 years as some sort of comparison, and that's kind of unfair because not every FCS guy is going to be a Bailey Zappi, but it worked with him. So, but yeah, what are your thoughts on Nick and just are you a fan of the FCS route? It kind of as the transfer portal, is evolving.
Absolutely. I don't think the gap between Conference USA schools and FCS schools is that big. I mean, actually, I'll
What
say
about
group
the
of five.
American? Remember where we're going.
Yeah, but I'll say group of five. Sun Belt.
Yeah.
I think that the gap years ago may have been greater, but now there's not much. And getting a guy like Nick, who's played 14 games and is still technically just a sophomore, he's got 3 years eligibility left. I think it's huge. I think he brings experience. Um, and, I mean, he had talent. I mean, he played well while he was there. 2 interceptions while he was on the team. One was against San Francisco 49ers, Trey Lance. The other one was against our future, maybe potentially starting quarterback, Stone Earl. So I'm excited. This is probably one of the transfers I'm most excited about, just not only because I think he can come in and play day one. He's a Bishop Dunn guy. He's coming back home. Um, but, I think can fill a void we've had at safety for a couple years now. So I think he's got a high upside. Like I said, I was really glad we were able to grab him because he kind of blew up late, but it seemed like he wanted to stay at home. At Colorado State, a couple different offers, teams coming in late, and him choosing us, I think, was a big recruiting win.
Yep. Couldn't agree more. All right. So the last one, and this is a tough name, Lecky Osunuga. Again, that's probably wrong, but coming out of New Mexico State. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So interior offensive line. If you go check his high school offer list coming out of high school, it was exceptionally long. No offense, but I'm kind of surprised he decided to go, to New Mexico State. Is it New Mexico or New Mexico State?
New Mexico.
Oh, okay, yeah, there we go. Well, I guess it's a little better, but I am, I'm surprised he elected to go there just because, I mean, he had, a real long list of offers and really good schools, they were trying to get him there, but goes to New Mexico and, we got a guy who has D1 experience now, join this offensive line room. And I think, that never hurts. You know what I mean? So what are your thoughts about Lecky and just what he brings?
Yeah, a lot like Shady Head. I think when you get a kid who's technically still listed as a freshman, and he played 6 games in the Mountain West Conference, which is I think is definitely a step up from the Conference USA. Um, I think it's a bonus. I mean, you're technically bringing in a high school kid that's played at the Division One level. Um, I think that interior lineman I think is probably one of our strongest suits. Gabe Blair, Carroll, and Mose coming back. But this is going to be a guy that I think can definitely keep pushing that group forward. I mean, I think he's a kid that's definitely going to come in and be on the two deep and potentially fighting for some playing time. So I think it was like I said, you go back just 2 years ago to his high school offer list, and I think we'd be doing cartwheels on Going Green if you landed an offensive lineman like this. So just getting him 2 years later with a little more experience, I think is a big addition.
Mm-hmm. Right. All right. So, kind of a little back to the bad news, I guess. And, rankings aren't everything. I mean, we saw that with Mason Fine and Rico Bussey, and just, Coach Luttrell has picked up some, lower rated guys, and, they've been exceptional for UNT. So can't put, all the stock into ratings. However, last year when we were number one in the conference in recruiting, we talked about it. So can't not talk about where we are right now currently. And I know that the transfer portal, the way they rank transfers, it's probably still a work in progress if I had to guess. I mean, I think they just slap on a bunch of 82, 83s transfer ratings. Just, I think it's just really hard to rate a transfer. So, the rankings on 24/7s are probably a little bit, just hard to gauge, I guess, if you will, just because of all the transfer movement. But currently, we are sitting at 11th in the conference, with our recruiting ranking. And, we've kind of always, have said of our thought of Coach Luttrell as a really great recruiter. And I still think, he's earned that. I mean, he's got a lot of good classes in through the last, few years since he's been here. He's definitely elevated the standard of recruiting for North Texas. But are you putting any concern yet into, our current recruiting ranking, or are you kind of just not really at all? Or what are your thoughts on that?
No, to be honest, I'm not super worried about it. One, because I think we still have a third of the class left.
So we have 9 spots left.
9 spots is what I'm
Okay,
hearing.
we'll talk about that here in a second. But anyway, sorry, go on.
So I mean that's a little bit of the concern. I'm not concerned about. And then second, you look at the class. 24/7. You got to give those guys credit. I mean, now they're having to not only rank all the high school kids that were before. Now they're having to rank transfers as well as the JUCOs. I mean, if you look at it, half our class hasn't even got rankings yet. And then you go through there, we talked earlier, I think Tom Tripp could be our best signing. I think he could be potentially an all-conference guy day one on campus. He's the second lowest ranked recruit we got right now. So, I mean, I think the recruiting rankings probably doesn't have near as much weight this year just because, like I said, we've got 6, 7 guys that's committed that's not even ranked. So they get rankings, that's going to go up. You bring in the extra additional 9 guys, I think we'll definitely be top 10 when it's all said and done. But at the use of Seth Luttrell rankings, at the end of the day, we look back the last 5 or 6 years, and some of the best players North Texas has got has been some of the lower ranked as far as recruiting ranking goes. So, you go through there, you look at definitely some talented players. Definitely some guys that can plug and play instantly. But I'm definitely anxious to see. I think when you talk about within the next couple of months adding 9 transfers, if they kind of stay along the lines, the guys we've brought in so far, it could be pretty exciting at the end of the day.
Yeah, and kind of going back to Tom, is it a Trib or Tribe? I'm not sure, but so I think he's listed at 6'3", 270, and you've heard he came in at about 255, a little lighter, but putting up a 40-inch vertical is is kind of the reports we've been hearing from some of the early workouts and stuff. Man, that is phenomenal. that, and especially a guy that size. I don't care if it's 255 or 270. I mean, like, just that much human, exploding up. That's a lot, and that's pretty exciting. That probably speaks to his athleticism.
We knew he was an athlete. He played, like played some running back. They had some goal line packages. I'd be interested to see if Coach Cobbs and the offensive staff put some goal line plays in for him, because he had several touchdowns while he was at the College of DePage. But coming in and the first day on campus, 255 doing a 40-inch vertical. That's something to get excited about. I know that we talked about in early National Signing Day. That was a guy that they really wanted to get locked in and signed, sealed, and delivered, because there was some big schools that were definitely coming in late on him. I think he could be the sleeper. And like I said, talk about rankings. He's our second lowest ranked recruit right now. So,
yeah, for sure. Another one I forgot to mention, Mohammed Bileti. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing the last name correctly either, but this is one I think we flipped from Rice last second. Yeah, that's interesting, and had the Penn offers, Pennsylvania. I think they're Ivy League, and so and maybe another Coach Bennett's kind of quarterback on defense, mindset. But anytime you can flip a recruit from a conference school that's going to the American with us too, so that's always interesting. But what are your thoughts on Muhammad and coming out of North Dallas?
Yeah, 6'2" frame, super smart kid. We talked about earlier, high IQ. I think I seen during his press conference at school, he had a ton of academic scholarships. I think the kid is a super bright kid, but also has some pretty impressive film as well. And it's nice to have that kind of length. 6'2". We've seen Gaddy have some success at that size. So getting a guy like that in, flipping him from Rice late is impressive. But I think, his name's mobility. So it's definitely, hopefully the name's fitting and can come in, and you can never have too many locked down corners. So hopefully he can come in and play pretty quickly.
Yeah. All right. So with those apparent 9 scholarships left, maybe we'll just go over the top 5. Where would you like to see the first 5? Go to what positions?
I think definitely, the Twins departing. I think an edge rusher, if you can get a guy that's got some, potentially a guy that maybe comes from a bigger school that either got buried on the 2 deep, a guy along those lines, I think would be your first pick. Kind of following their offers, I definitely think they're going to bring in a tackle. I know they missed out on the kid that went to Tech. They felt pretty confident about it. I think Shanahan was his name. I definitely think, definitely at least one offensive tackle. They were bringing him in and they thought Brammer was staying. So with Brammer leaving, I think 2 of those will be used on offensive tackle transfers. From there, I think you never have too many defensive backs. Like I said, I think that, one of the 9 could definitely be used on a cornerback. I think you definitely could bring in another safety and then potentially a linebacker. I know we've got KD Davis coming back, but planning for life after him, and even adding some extra depth. I know a couple years ago we had a fullback playing linebacker. So I think, but the thing about it is now we get to go through spring. Coaches get to evaluate what we got. We've, heard last year, this position is not, impressing, but when you're kind of full on scholarships, you filled your class, there's not much you can do. Now you get to go out, evaluate for 2 months, see what you got, and then really get to, and I think there is going to be another mass exodus after spring ball. I think the Georgias of the world, you're going to see the Tommy Bush types, the 4 or 5-star guys that haven't got to see the playing field as quick as they'd like, hit the portal. I think that we always see, quite a few leave after season, quite a few leave after spring. So I think it's going to be nice. There is a lot of teams holding back. So, I don't think we're the only ones doing it. It's not like it's just a super secret game plan. So I think we are still going to have to win recruiting battles. But, I think, Enoch Jackson and Tommy Bush were 2 guys we had late last year. I think if you can add 9 guys of that quality, and that's putting a lot of pressure, but I mean, even if you get 5 or 6 guys that quality, I think this class is going to round up pretty nicely.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, all right, JD, thanks for jumping on. Anything else we need to touch on before we hop off?
That's it. Basketball team's rolling. Hopefully,
Pack the pit.
lock it, pack the pit. I mean, if you're, I'm 2 hours away, but I still try to make a couple trips up there a year. I mean, if you're in the Denton area, you're local. Grant McCaslin, they're doing some unbelievable things. They're on an unbelievable roll. Get out and support those guys. I know the Mean Green Maniacs. I don't know who's put that together, but I think they're doing an unbelievable job.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I think the students seem like they're kind of doing their job. I think more of the local alums that are still around. I mean, take the kids over there, take the family out for a game one night and support. Because I think, you know, when it all comes down to trying to keep Grant, I mean, I think the fan support is going to play a big part. Because I mean, I think
Yeah,
he's paid well, but definitely need to get as many butts in the seats as we can. And those guys
absolutely.
deserve it. Those, I mean, the Louisiana Tech comeback was unbelievable. I mean, those guys are playing out of their mind, and they're a good, gritty team, and they're fun to watch. So, yeah, get out there and support them and go Mean Green.
Absolutely. Go Mean Green.